Gotta remember I did it Friday. Okay, so we are going to be going over Section 5 test review, which we have test next class. Pay attention. Let me know if you have any questions. You might want to rewatch this at home for fun to make sure you get a good grade. Okay? So on the first one, it gave you the formula, simple interest formula. I will give you the formula on the test, but I'm not going to tell you what the variables mean, okay? So it says, what is the maturity rate? If you look back at example 2 on page 23, we wrote in what it meant for maturity rate. That just means at the end of this loan, how much are you going to be paying back, including the amount that you borrowed plus the interest. That's all it means, okay? So basically, we're just solving for A. So what's your P going to be? 10,000 times 1 plus, what's your rate? 0.06, good, not 0.6, 0.06. Your time is 6 months. T stands for time in years. So if we put a 6 in there, we're going to be finding how much we would pay back in 6 years. So what would we put? Point what? What did you say? 0.5. Oh, he says 0.75. 0.5. 0.5. Now, make sure to be careful of your order of operations. Inside these brackets, you have addition and multiplication. So make sure you simplify that in order correctly. 0.06 times 0.5 is 0.003, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that 1 to it. So we have 10,000 times 1.03. $10,300 should be your answer. Is that what y'all got?
Yes.
Awesome sauce.
We should get that.
I think so. Number 2, an investment of $3,500 is compounded monthly at an interest rate of 4.5%. How much will be in the account in 25 years? Okay, we've done compound interest 1 million times. You hearing me right now? 1 million. So we better be getting this right. So remember, Y is the amount in the account. We're not looking for, well, we are looking for that. We don't know that. A is our initial investment of $3,500 times 1 plus a rate. What are we going to do with 4.5%? Which is 0.045. And how many times it's compounded, which monthly we'll plug in 12. And then again, we have another 12. Time is 25 years. Be careful how you enter that in the calculator. Again, if y'all just if you don't do 12 times 25 first, you just raise it to 12 times 25 without parentheses, it's not going to calculate it correctly. So I would just simplify that on my own first, okay? First, I'm going to do my fraction. So remember, fraction is division, always numerator divided by denominator. And then, my bad, I'm going to go ahead and add that 1 to it. 1.00375. Raised up, oops. Raised up to the, let me just do it, 12 times 25 is 300. Okay, again, I would not put all this in my calculator at once. I would do 1.00375. Double check, make sure you have it correct. Raise to the 300 first, and then multiply it times 3,500 or 3,500. So Y equals $10,758, and if we round that, would be 10 cents. Is that what y'all got?
I put, yeah, I just got 0.9 at the end. I didn't round it to 10 cents.
Okay, I wouldn't count it wrong, but that's not rounded correctly.
Oh, no.
But I wouldn't count it wrong.
So sorry.
That's okay. Number 3, if you're watching this from home, there was an error. This should have been 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. Okay? This was geometric sequence. And constant ratio. What number do I multiply together to get to the next term? Right. Or divide. If I divide, I got to go backwards, right? And see, if I multiply, I go to the right. If I divide, I do 4 divided by 2, 8 divided by 4, 16 divided by 8. And sometimes that's easier if that was like decimals or fractions. And you're like, I don't know, I can't see. It's easier to just do the division on your calculator. But this case, it's easy to see that the constant ratio is 2. When I just asked for the general recursive formula and explicit formula, I just want to know what formula could you use for everything. So if it's any term, you don't plug in or substitute in a number for everything. So like a sub n, I just write a sub n, because if I was looking for the 10th term, I'd put a sub 10. If I was looking for the 50th term, I would write a sub 50, but I just want any term. Again, a sub n minus 1, that is the previous term. I don't know unless I am looking for something specific. The only thing that would be constant in the whole thing is the constant ratio, which is 2. So that's really the only number you would substitute in for the general formula. Coolio? Same thing with explicit. Explicit, I would just say a sub n equals. Now, a sub 1 is talking about your first term. That's not going to change. So I will substitute in a 2 for the first term times my common ratio will be 2 no matter what term number I'm looking for. And then raised to the n minus 1, I wouldn't substitute anything in for n unless I was looking for a specific term. And now, when I say, what's the 100th term? Then I'm looking for a specific term. Okay? So I was wanting just the general formulas and then find the 100th term. Now, the only time I could find the 100th term with recursive is if I knew the 99th term. Do I know the 99th term? No. So I'll be using the explicit formula. Now, on the test, I'm not going to ask for these general formulas. I'm just going to say, find the 20th term or whatever the case may be. Okay? And I'll give you the explicit formula. But I won't substitute the numbers in, and I won't tell you what each of these things mean. So if I was finding the 100th term, and it's a very large, crazy number, I wasn't thinking when I did it. So it's going to give us in scientific formula on our paper, but on the test I won't do that. I won't give you a crazy number. So we would be looking for a sub 100 equals, a sub 1 is my first term, which is 2, times my common ratio is also 2, raised to the n minus 1, that's 100 minus 1 is 99. I didn't mean to put that parenthesis there. Somebody borrowed my whiteout, and who knows where it is. How many people do you think are going to do 2 times 2 first? You got to do that exponent before you do multiplication. So, the order of operations is what gets y'all. Be careful. PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Use it. I love this camera thing. It's so fun. Okay, so 2 raised to the 99. So this is this number with the decimal moved to the right 29 times. And we haven't even multiplied it times that other 2 yet. So that is this number with the decimal moved to the right 30 times. That is an enormous number. I will not give that to you on the test. So for today, I'll just write 1.267 e, well, I should write the whole thing. 2676506 e to the 30. Okay? So like if I was just wanted the 10th term, I would do 2 to the 9th times 2 would be 1024. So if your number will be something more like that. I'm doing a recording. You just want to take a picture? Okay, yeah, just grab my whatchamacallit, spiral. Alright, is everybody okay with that one?
Yes.
Any questions? Okay. The answer is that crazy long number. Yeah, like I said, I won't give you one like that on the test. I wasn't thinking about it. Number 4, this is just an equation. Y'all been doing these since 7th grade. I don't know. I don't understand why we're having so many issues. You're just solving for the variable, okay? First, what do y'all think the first thing I would do here is?
The parentheses?
Yeah, distribute, right? I can't simplify inside the parentheses, but I can get rid of them by distributing. So, 5, remember when you distribute, multiply. Don't forget to distribute to every term in the parentheses. Am I distributing to the minus 2x? No, so I'll just bring that down. Some like to say, drop it like it's hot. That's right. Okay.
Aren't you?
Now I want to get my x's together. These x's are on the same side of the equation. So would I add 2x to 20x? No. I would change that sign if I was moving it to the other side. So I would have 5. 20x minus 2x is 18x. Now, I want to solve for x. I need to get rid of this 5. I need to get rid of this 18. Depends on the operation as to how I get rid of them. If you have a number being multiplied by x, get rid of that last. Get rid of everything else before that. So what should I do? Subtract 5. I want to move it to the other side.
He moved the negative 13 to the other side. And I did it, and he was complaining about it.
I saw that he did that, and that's okay. He just had to end up moving it back eventually, or moving something back. So you got to x by itself. There's several things you could move, and it's not wrong. I just try to do the least moves. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 18x equals negative 13 minus 5.
It's no solution.
Negative 18. Now am I going to subtract 18? This 18? Divide, because it's multiplying by x. So that is x equals, boom.
We're having a whole debate over there.
Yeah.
I like a good mathematical debate. The next one a lot of people struggled
I'm
with.
sorry. I kind of missed the part when you got the 18. How did you get that? The
Here?
18x. Up.
Here?
Yeah. Up there.
Minus 2x. I just combine like terms. They're on the same side.
So you just did an arrow.
Number 5, this x is in the numerator of a fraction. I can't just be adding 8 or adding 3 to both sides. I need to clear the fraction. So I'll multiply every term by negative 3. Now, while this is a fraction, this is considered just one term, okay? So don't multiply 5x by negative 3 and negative 8 by negative 3 and negative 3. If you multiply the whole thing by negative 3, those will cancel. But negative 19 is its own term, so you have to multiply it by negative 3 as well, okay? So we would have negative 3 times negative 19 is positive 57. On the right side, I'm just left with that numerator of 5x minus 8. So now what? Add 8 to both sides. 57 plus 8 is 65 equals 5x. Have I solved for x?
No, not yet.
What do I do?
Divide by
So x equals 65 divided by 5 is 13. Once your x is completely isolated, you are finished. Coolio? You might have questions on that? Number 6 is an inequality. You solve them almost exactly the same as equations. The only difference is when if you divide both sides by a negative number or you multiply both sides by a negative number, then you have to switch the sign. Flip that sign. Remember that? Algebra 2? Yes. But other than that, it's exactly like solving an equation. So, can I distribute? What's negative 8 times 4? Negative 32. Negative 8 times positive 9x? Negative 72x is greater than 7 times negative 6 negative 42, and 7 times negative 11x. Okay, I've got x's on the left, I've got x's on the right, I got numbers on the left, I got numbers on the right. I need the x's on one side, the numbers on the other. So it does not matter if you move, what you move where. My x's, I want to make them positive, so not that you have to, but you'll end up having to divide by negative. So I would add 77x to both sides. And so I'll have negative 32. What's negative 72x plus 77x? And then add 32. Negative 32 plus 32 is 0. Bring down 5x is greater than negative 42 plus 32 is negative 10. Divide both sides by 5. Now, I just told you when you divide by negative, you have to flip the sign. Did I divide by negative? No. 10 is negative. I didn't divide by negative 10. I divided by positive 5, so there's no sign flip in there. So we have x is greater than negative 2. That's it. Number 7, we did notes on examples like 7 and 8, and we did a whole bunch of problems on your own on 7 and 8. Okay, we are trying to solve for x. In this case, it's inside parentheses. A lot of people wanted to distribute the 2. You could do that if that exponent wasn't out there, but because it is, you can't do that. Okay? So remember, you got to isolate the parentheses first, which I would add 6 to both sides. And then don't distribute that 2. What should I do? Divide by 2. So now I'm just left with x plus 6 quantity squared equals 0. Square root. When something is being squared and you want to undo that, it's called the inverse. You take the square root. So you take the square root of x plus 6 quantity squared. And remember the side that's just the constant, you have to take the positive and negative square root. Now when it's 0, is that going to make a difference? No, because there's no such thing as positive 0, negative 0. So what's the square root of x plus 6 quantity squared? X plus 6, what's the square root of 0? Do I need to write positive, negative 0? No. So then I can just solve for x, subtract 6 from both sides, and boom, x equals negative 6. Coolio. Number 8, I still have an x that's being squared. It's not in parentheses, but what should I do to start this problem? So x squared equals negative 8. Square root both sides. Remember to take the positive, negative square root. What's the square root of a negative number? Well, there's a solution. So like if you put that in your calculator, darn it. It says non-real answer. What did I tell you? What kind of answer will you get? An imaginary solution. If you took Algebra 2, you've already dealt with imaginary solutions. We haven't talked about them in here. So you can't say no solution because there's a solution. It's just imaginary. So when you are trying to take the square root of a negative, until we learn about imaginary, you just say no real solution. Not no solution. No real solution. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Smelling what I'm cooking? Buying what I'm selling?
Love you.
I just knew y'all gonna like this camera as much as I do. On number 9, I ran out of room, so I'm gonna do these on separate sheets. They're just factor and solve. Factor and solve. Okay? And I gotta kind of speed it up, make sure I can get through this on time. I love factoring.
I hate it. I still have trouble with it.
Alright, well pay good attention. I am going to start maybe doing more videos in here and putting them on Edmodo, just like when we do regular lessons. So if you're out, especially on just math kind of stuff like this, so if you're out or you need help, you go back and listen instead of just having the notes. Okay, first thing you always want to know is it in standard form and set equal to 0? If it's not, you got to get it that way, right? Okay, what's the next question you always ask?
In the test, are they all going to equal to 0?
I think I made them that way, yeah.
Yes, you did.
No GCF, right, okay. So, you're going to do the T-chart. You have to determine A, B, and C. What is A? 3. What is B? And what is C? -5. A is always the coefficient of your quadratic term. B is always the coefficient of your linear term. And C is always the constant, okay? And sometimes you might be missing B and C, so you got to be careful to name them correctly. So, fellas, he's supposed to be in him seat, so go on back up there. Did I say him seat?
Yes.
Yeah.
His seat.
Ain't got it on video.
On video too, darn it.
You did a redo.
I don't know how to edit yet. I need two numbers that multiply together to get A times C. What is A times C? And add to get B, which is +2. What you got?
5 and
So +5 and -3 is -15. What's 5 plus -3? 2. So my numbers work, my signs work, I'm good to go. So I'll make 2 sets of parentheses. My first term in each set, whatever variable they use, that's what I'm going to put as my first term. Okay? The second term in each set comes from the T-chart. Whatever those two numbers that worked on both sides, that's what I use. So, and make sure the signs are correct. I have a +5 and a -3. Are those my factors? Not yet. What have I not done? Divide and slide. And I divide and slide by whatever A is. Go to your T-chart, because if we took out a GCF, it might be different than what we started with. So always look at the A in the T-chart. You're going to divide if you can divide evenly. If you can't, you're going to slide. And remember, if it's a slide, you must reduce before you slide. Otherwise, it won't work out. Okay? 5/3, is that going to be a divide or a slide? Slide. Can you reduce? No. So I'll slide the 3 on over, and what do I get?
3 plus 5.
You know it.
And that just be x plus 1.
X
-1.
minus 1, because 3 divides by 3 evenly, so we just divide, right? So x minus 3 divided by 3 is 1 equals 0. Once you divide and slide, just double check that you don't have any greatest common factors. If there wasn't one in the beginning, you won't have one. But just in case you missed it, just look again. Okay? And also remember to do a quick check. What's my first term times my first term? Which was my first term? What's my last term times my last term? Which is my last term? So more than likely I factored correctly, right? So I factored, but have I solved? No. How do I do that?
By the equations by themselves.
Okay, so these are factors. I've got 2 of them. Set each factor, take them out of parentheses, set them equal to 0, and solve for x. Basic old equation. So I'll subtract 5, divide by 3. X equals -5/3. I don't care if you leave it as a fraction. If you put it as a decimal, you better enter it correctly. -5 divided by 3, I'll go with approximately -1.7. Or if you can do a mixed number, that's fine too. On the other one, my solution is +1. I have 2 solutions. I know I should have 2 solutions because it's a second degree polynomial. 2 degrees means 2 solutions. So if I come up with 3 or 1, something's wrong. Unless the one is the same solution. Like, because sometimes you'll get two solutions that are the same, that still counts as 2. Julio? Anybody have questions?
Wait, which one of the comedians actually put negative 5 there?
Yeah. Yeah, you can leave it as a fraction or a decimal. Oh, not 10, I mean B. Is this set equal to 0 and in standard form? Yeah. Is there a GCF? If there is, factor it out. There's not. So we do our T-chart. What's A? What is B? And C? I need two numbers that multiply together to give me A times C. Positive 6. And then add to give me B, which is negative 7. What you got? Negative 1 and negative 6, you say? Negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. Negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7. So that works on both sides. Make your parentheses. What variable are we going to use this time? M. And we'll put a minus 1 in one set and a minus 6 in the other. If you forget to do divide and slide, you better be good at doing a quick check. Was my first term times my first term, give me my first term? No. Is my last term times my last term, give me my last term? No. So you know something's not right. You have not done a divider slide. 1/2, is that going to be a divider or a slide? Can I reduce it? Nope. So slide it on over, and what do I put in my parentheses? 6 over 2, divide or slide? Divide. So in my parentheses I have n minus 3. It's usually, remember I told y'all, you usually only, if it's a slide, the reducing you generally see when they're both going to be a slide. If one's a slide and one's a divide, I don't think you usually see reduce. But if they're both a slide, you're going to have to reduce. So now just set them equal to 0 and solve for the variable. Is that what y'all got? Any have questions? Yeah, I've got one more. Summerlin bell rings in. Woo! Anybody leaving for Summerlin bell? Okay. And again, this will be on Edmodo for your enjoyment. I'm going to do it fast. Standard form, yes. GCF, no. A is 2. B is negative 7. C is 5. I need two numbers that multiply together to give me... What?
It's 10.
To add to get 10, and I'll multiply to get 10, add to get negative 7. You're slowing me down.
Negative 5, negative 2.
Negative 5 and negative 2 is positive 10. Negative 5 plus negative 2 is negative 7. Good job. So I have k minus 5 and k minus 2. Am I going to need to divide and slide? You know it. Am I always going to need to divide and slide?
If there's a 1,
Right. If a is 1, that's the only time you don't. So 5 has divide or slide? Slide, can I reduce? Nope. So what do I get? 2 over 2. Divide, so I get k minus 1. 2k times k is 2k squared. Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. I probably factored correctly. Set each factor equal to 0. And solve for the variable. I should get 2 solutions because I have 2 degrees. So k is 5/2. Or you could say 2.5, or you could say 2.5. I don't care what form you leave it in. Anybody have questions? Listen to me. The review will be due next class. Keep it with you so you have to look over. You may want to rewatch the video. We need some hundreds. It's not multiple choice. The review is due next class. Julio?
I did keep it in my bag.
Yes.